If you guys remember, a couple of days ago, I had the video on my channel where I showed how the Democrats were pushing for legislation in California in order to make the affirming of the gender of a child as one of the points to influence a custody battle. So if you have a father that believes the child is trans and a mother that believes that the child isn't trans, then the parent affirming the gender should be considered as, you know, a bonus on the list of things that get to decide who's going to get to keep the child. Now, the interesting thing is that Gavin Newsom, out of nowhere, decided to veto the legislation. And now that he was pressed by reporters who are very concerned about the issue, he had this to say.
Gender issue came up. Why should parents not know if their kids are transitioning at school?
It's a hell of a thing. You're talking about 1% of the population. Climate change, its impact 100%.
Now, this opened an interesting can of worms, because in California, yeah, we can't really talk about right-wingers. I mean, they don't even exist. And if they do exist, they don't matter. But you do have two types of Democrats. You have the radical ones, the extremists. And these are very important in an election period because they're the ones that are more likely to stay online, to spread campaign messages, to actively hit the like button, to go campaign, to protest, right? So you need the radicals. But unfortunately, the radicals, when it comes to trans issues, like, they will take the most extreme position, and they will view that anyone disagreeing with them, even a little bit on any issue, is a transphobic bigot and needs to be ostracized, right? So on the other hand, you now have the moderates, but like, the moderates are the overwhelming majority of people. They're probably not as politically involved, but their votes are very important. So Gavin Newsom now is trapped between trying to please the extremists and trying to please the moderates. So, for example, there is a problem in California now where some people found out that in some schools, if the child identifies as a different gender, then the teachers should hide that from the parents. Now, I do not know any other case, or I can't even imagine of any other situation where the teacher should hide anything from the parents. Like if you guys can think of any, please let me know. But at least in my country, like when I was a student, there was absolutely nothing that my teacher wouldn't tell my parents, right? But again, like, I need to understand that the culture is shifting. We are going towards a more progressive era. So it is possible now that there's going to be many things that the teacher should hide from the parents. However, when Gavin Newsom is pressed with this question, look how interestingly he managed to deflect.
Gender issue came up. Why should parents not know if their kids are transitioning at school?
It's a hell of a thing. You're talking about 1% of the population. Climate change, its impact 100% of the population wasn't even...
Right. But like, the problem isn't about trans kids. The problem is the faith that the parent has in the school system. Because again, like if you say that there are certain issues that the teacher should be able to hide from the parent, that now you created the precedent. So the question, like, what other issues? Like, what if the kid does drugs? What if the kid commits a crime? What, like, right? Like, why wouldn't the teacher hide in that situation? So, like, this is one of the big issues that you have. It's an issue of trust. It doesn't matter, like, how many people it affects. What matters is, it's like, why do you believe that the parent should not know something about his child if he trusts the school board? It should be a two-way street. It should be a mutual understanding. The parent trusts the teacher to take care of the child while he is in school so that the kid doesn't get hurt, so that the kid learns and studies. And in exchange, the teacher should tell the parent everything that happened while the kid was at school. I mean, just think about it. If you send your kid to a family friend, wouldn't that family friend be morally obligated to tell you everything there is to know about your kid while they were staying there? And wouldn't you do the same? So he is absolutely trying to evade the question.
Gender issue came up. Why should parents not know if their kids are transitioning at school?
It's a hell of a thing. You're talking about 1% of the population. Climate change that's impacted 100% of the population wasn't even brought up, and we're talking about trans issues.
Here in California, this is an issue for you.
It's a big issue for parents. This is a front and center issue.
Why should parents not know?
It's the great. This is one of the greatest distractions, and it's classic. 1% of the population in the United States. These kids just want to live. These kids just want to live. And we're having a debate about trans issues at the Reagan Library. It's be a shame.
Right, so he believes that trans issues are a distraction from climate change. Why was Biden trying to distract people from climate change? Like this is probably the administration that has pushed more bills in order to fight climate change than I think like any other administration in the United States history. I mean, even the idea that gas stoves are a problem, right? Like who's passing legislation? Which political party is passing legislation for that? So are you trying to imply that Biden is not a good Democrat? Like again, what issues were being distracted when Biden put on the LGBT flag on the White House? It is very interesting, but still, I find it even more interesting, the fact that he is now saying, well, actually, this is an issue that only affects 1% of the population. Like, I don't think he understands that this would deconstruct pretty much all of the diversity, inclusivity, and equity programs. Because, like, if you're going to say, all right, well, we need to talk about issues that affect the majority of the population, that's not how we did things up until now. Like, unironically, right? Like, if you are to say, oh, we only concern about the many and not the few, I think you may be in the wrong political party. I think maybe, like, the Democratic Party may not be the one for you. But still, a lot of people are believing that he may actually try to run for vice president. So this is why, like, he's trying to avoid talking about these issues. This is why he's trying to pussyfoot around the issue. And also why he's trying to present himself more of a moderate. Because, again, like, vetoing that bill was very interesting. I didn't expect that. In fact, no one expected it. Like, not a single person expected it for Newsom to veto the bill. The way it seems to work right now, especially with the Democratic Party, is like you have the activists that keep asking for more and more. And everyone is afraid to say no. Like, everyone is afraid to say, okay, but like maybe this time you asked for something unreasonable. Like, maybe we should have a concession. Maybe we should... No, there is no debate, right? And I noticed this, especially on the subject of abortion. Like, you know, obviously in the United States, like, they have, like, this thing... I can't even call it a fetish, but it's... If you go on TikTok, it's going to be difficult to disapprove. But they have this thing where they glorify, I guess. Glorifying is the correct word. Like, they glorify the concept of abortion. If you look at the American laws regarding abortion and you compare it to the European Union, you would see that the European Union is far more conservative than the United States. But again, like, it's the same thing. It's like you have someone that says something batshit crazy, like, okay, well, if it's like the mother is within contractions and the baby is about to come up, right? Like, can she still have an abortion? And the way they passed some legislation, and I think, like, the lawmaker must have missed it or didn't realize, but it was like, if a psychiatrist deems that the birth would affect the mother psychologically, then she should be able to have an abortion. Even if, and this was actually asked in the Senate, like, this is that, right? So it was like, even if, like, she is experiencing contractions, like, even in that case, and I'm like, I'm sorry, you know, but, like, the only way you can reach to this point where you can say such nonsense that even, like, the most left-leaning extremists would disagree with you has to be if you have a system where people aren't allowed to disagree, where they're afraid to say no, they're afraid to contradict the activist. And then you have, like, activists that try to show that they're more left-leaning than the other, so they're now competing with each other. It's like, no, I'm actually more left-leaning than you. No, I'm the most left. I am the most far left. Right? So when you have that and people are afraid to say, no, actually, hold on a little bit, well, you get extremist legislations like the ones that I talked about. But anyway, right, let me know what you guys think. And as always, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.